how every member of Seven died. Translucent. He was the invisible superhero of the Seven, who, thanks to his carbon-based skin, was able to bend light to become invisible, and it also made him bulletproof. During the short time he was in the series, it was also revealed to us that he used these invisibility powers to spy on people in a terrifying way in bathrooms and pretty much anywhere really. While he was being held captive by our protagonists, after being knocked out in a fight against Butcher and Hughie, they set out to find a way to end his life. Despite failing when they tried to use a bullet made from a material similar to his skin, Frenchie finally discovered that although Translucent's skin was impenetrable, his insides were just as vulnerable as those of any normal human. So they electrocuted Translucent to knock him unconscious and placed an explosive device in his rectum that could be detonated either by remote control or if he tried to remove it without the proper procedure. Translucent then caused a short circuit in the cage where he was being kept and tried to escape. Hughie caught him and threatened him, ordering him to get back in the cage. Translucent warned Hughie that if he used the detonator, there would be no turning back and he would become a criminal. Hughie then began to doubt his actions, and Translucent took advantage of this to walk toward the exit, but the rage built up inside Hughie, who turned toward the door and pressed the button that detonated the bomb, ending the life of the first member of the Seven. Lamplighter. Lamplighter, whose real name is unknown, was one of the original members of the Seven, and had been part of the organization before the events of the series. In the year 2015, he was manipulated and blackmailed by Grace Mallory into becoming an informant inside Vought Tower, and this led to Lamplighter accidentally ending the lives of Mallory's 2 grandchildren while seeking revenge. He decided not to tell the Seven about these actions because he felt remorse over the death of Mallory's grandchildren. And in the year 2019, also before the events of the series, Lamplighter was fired from the Seven for unknown reasons. He then became a secret agent of Stan Edgar to eliminate super-terrorists and unstable patients at Sage Grove, which led him to develop depression. Eventually, Lamplighter ends up joining the boys for a short time, but he can't do much to help them, because he literally has nothing to live for. So after spending a day with Hughie, the latter convinces him to infiltrate Vought Tower to help him get Annie out of that place, where at that moment she was being held captive inside the tower. When they sneak in, Lamplighter takes Hughie to the Seven's conference room instead of the prison room, where he begins having an emotional breakdown about failing in life and being a burden to the people who truly want to change the world. At that moment, he lights his lighter and immolates himself in his own flames, ending his life, because he had always wanted to do it in front of the Seven mural, to remember the best moment of his life before everything went to trash. Groan, scream.
What the fuck?
Stormfront, Clara Vought, wife of Frederick Vought, joined the Seven at Stan Edgar's request after the death of Translucent, when he realized her ability to radicalize audiences and turn them into almost religious fanatics for the company. Eventually we find out that she is one of the only people who survived the Compound V experiments, and that her importance in the story is far too great to summarize in a single video, and she's even going to be the protagonist of a spin-off that literally changed the ending of this part of the video. Anyway, during her attempt to kidnap Ryan to train him under her own vision of the world, Stormfront was stabbed by Becca, Ryan's mother, so she grabbed Becca by the neck to end her life, causing Ryan to use his heat vision for the first time in an absolutely destructive way. Ryan's power was so great that it left Clara with severe burns and several parts of her body completely destroyed and charred, but it also caused Becca's death as collateral damage. A year later, after being kept alive thanks to specialized machinery, Clara ended her own life by biting off her own tongue after Homelander refused to follow her dream again. That would be her end, but in Season 5, Soldier Boy now told us that if we didn't see a body, then there's a strong chance she's still alive. And with the upcoming spin-off set to premiere next year, we can't simply say she died, since she is a main character, and nothing prevents her from appearing in the present timeline in a totally unexpected way next year. Supersonic. Alex, better known as Supersonic, took part in the American Hero Contest in Season 3 to earn a spot in the Seven, where he crushed the competition, thanks to his connection with Starlight and his good guy image, winning the contest and joining the Seven as Stormfront's replacement. Starlight then warned Supersonic that he should reject joining the Seven because Homelander was becoming more and more unstable, but Alex refused, agreeing to join in order to help Starlight from inside the organization. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a fatal mistake, because A-Train informed Homelander that Supersonic was working for Starlight, and Homelander brutally murdered him as a warning, then took Annie to his corpse to warn her that the next time she disobeyed his orders, he wouldn't kill another Supe, he would go after Hughie.
Alex! Oh my god!
Stop it! You know how that ends.
Black Noir the First. After the supposed death of Soldier Boy, Payback, which had once been the most iconic group in the universe of the boys, ended up falling apart, causing Irving, better known as the first Black Noir, to become a kind of highly relevant solo hero. After Homelander's introduction to the public, which ended horribly, Black Noir helped him clean up the scene so that his first mission would not be seen as a complete disaster in the public eye. The two became friends, and Noir became one of the original members of the first lineup of the Seven. Eventually, Homelander discovered that Soldier Boy was his father, and confronted Black Noir because he had never told him this detail about his life. He also asked him if he had always known, and Noir answered with complete honesty that he had indeed always known that information. Homelander, completely emotionally devastated and feeling betrayed, hugged Noir one last time and ended his life by grabbing his entrails and pulling them out of his body. In this way, the first Black Noir died, but his death was hidden from the public by saying that he was on a secret mission, and he was eventually replaced by Black Noir 2. A-Train. Reggie Franklin, better known as A-Train, joined the Seven around the year 2015, when after a great performance as a member of the Teenage Kicks, he began drawing attention because of the great use of his powers, which eventually led him to compete in a race against the Seven speedster, at the time, Mr. Marathon. A-Train won that race with total ease, causing Homelander to fire Mr. Marathon and replace him with A-Train, officially joining the Seven. Years later, A-Train was on the run, hiding his family from Homelander, but he was contacted by Annie to help free our protagonists from one of Homelander's prisons. A-Train then showed up at the last minute when Homelander was about to end Hughie's life, and using his powers he managed to save him. But this caused Homelander to begin chasing him to get revenge for betraying him. Reggie then lost speed and tripped when a girl stepped in front of him, but he did the best he could to avoid her, keeping himself from repeating the mistake that basically began the events of the series, when he ended the life of Robin, Hughie's girlfriend. Homelander then caught him, and A-Train mocked him for being weak and unstable. And Homelander then ended his life by snapping his neck. Firecracker. Misty Tucker Gray, better known as Firecracker, was recruited by Homelander after he had met Sister Sage, who discovered Firecracker and decided that her podcast known as Truth Bomb was a very useful and important resource in building Homelander's new empire. So thanks to Sage's advice and plan, Firecracker earned a place in the Seven. Eventually, Misty became one of the members most loyal to Homelander, carrying out meetings and plans to glorify him first as a hero and later as the absolute god of America. After meeting with the pastor who took care of her when she was a child, Firecracker began to doubt Homelander's actions, something she confessed to Soldier Boy after sleeping with him. But after Soldier Boy began spending time with Homelander, he eventually revealed Misty's words to Homelander, who in retaliation decided to fire her from the Seven and exile her from Vought Tower. Firecracker, totally emotionally shattered, tried to change Homelander's mind, and was definitely striking a nerve by telling him that even a god needs love. But Homelander, feeling vulnerable, ended her life by impaling her head against a statue so he wouldn't have to keep dealing with it. Mr. Marathon. With a completely unknown real name, Mr. Marathon at some point in his adult life earned the title of the fastest man on the planet, which granted him a spot in the original lineup of the Seven, a place he ended up losing after competing against A-Train in a race where A-Train beat him easily, causing him to be replaced, and A-Train to take his position in the Seven. Years later, when Homelander was searching for Compound V, he went together with Soldier Boy to Mr. Marathon's house to find out where the V was, as well as bomb site, because Marathon used to sneak into Vought Tower together with Lamplighter, which gave him access to privileged information. Marathon then betrayed Homelander along with his friends, but they failed to convince Soldier Boy to help them end Homelander's life, causing Soldier Boy to use Marathon's powers against him to kill his own friends. And during their confrontation, Mr. Marathon slipped on baby oil, and Soldier Boy then broke his leg so he would tell him where Bombsight was. But Marathon only told him that he didn't know, though he was sure that Bombsight had the V. Before he could say anything else, Homelander appeared and crushed his head with a stomp, thus ending the story of Mr. Marathon.
What happened?
I took care of it.
Black Noir 2. Justin, better known as Black Noir, was the actor hired by Vought to replace Noir without telling the public about the death of the first one. Justin was hired for being a great actor who graduated with good grades from Godolphin University, and when he joined the Seven, he formed a strong friendship with the Deep. This friendship began to fracture when Justin slept with Sister Sage, whom the Deep had already been involved with, making him think he had betrayed him. The friendship fractured even more when the Deep betrayed Justin by knocking him unconscious after Stan Edgar's capture in order to steal the credit and earn Homelander's respect, in addition to murdering his theater teacher, Adam Bork. Noir then decided to take revenge by destroying an oil pipeline that caused the death of 1.4 billion fish, which emotionally devastated Deep. And during the recording of the podcast they had together, Deep attacked him by surprise, strangling him and stabbing him with his own knife, thus ending the story of the second Black Noir. The Deep. Kevin Moskowitz, better known as The Deep before joining the Seven, was a fairly popular student at Godolphin because despite having bad grades, he was president of Gamma Delta for 7 years, which made him quite respected and admired to the point of being within the school's top 10 inches popularity during his student years. And after graduating, he joined the Seven directly, where he became the only member who survived until the team's dissolution by Homelander's orders. Literally, by the end of the Seven, there were only 2 members left, Homelander and the Deep. After the dissolution of the Seven, the Deep tried to convince Homelander to give him a chance to help him in his crusade to become the God of America. But he was completely rejected and humiliated. Moments later, he ran into Annie and thought it was all a test of fate, so he decided to end her life to prove to Homelander that he was worthy of being part of his team and his mission. This resulted in Annie beating him so badly that he ended up at a nearby beach, where not only was he humiliated, but he was thrown into the sea, where marine life was waiting for him, because they blamed him for the oil pipeline accident that ended the lives of 1.4 billion fish. So once in the water, he was cornered by a group of different sea creatures, and some kind of kraken trapped him with its tentacles, inserting one of them into him from behind to drag him into its mouth, destroying him from the inside and ending his life. Homelander, better known as Homelander, was the product of Project 5, which made him the strongest soup in the entire universe of The Boys. After his debut in front of the public, which turned out to be a total failure but was cleaned up by Black Noir, the two became friends, and Homelander took command of the Seven, a team that was designed around him to increase his fame and public acceptance. Homelander then became the main antagonist of the series, and recently met his end during the events of the final season, where he lost his powers thanks to Kimiko's laser after a very intense fight against Butcher and his own son Ryan. After losing his abilities, Homelander was beaten and humiliated by Butcher, who did not accept his pleas to spare his life and, using the crowbar he carried with him, smashed open his skull and then split his head apart to reveal his brain, thus ending the life of the leader of the Seven and making him the last member of this organization to lose his life. At the moment, only 4 former members of the Seven are officially still alive. Annie, who joined the Seven under the name Starlight in the first season after Lamplighter's departure, is now living happily with Hughie and is about to have her first daughter, who will be named Robin. Sister Sage, personally recruited by Homelander, lost her powers, and the last time we saw her, she traveled to Orlando to have fun at Universal Studios. Soldier Boy was the last member to join the Seven during the events of the final season, but then he was betrayed and locked in Homelander's room for 1,000 years. He is currently still trapped, but alive. Queen Maeve joined the Seven after graduating, and was at one point the second most popular soup on the planet. After the final confrontation against Homelander in Season 3, she lost her powers after being hit by Soldier Boy's blast, but survived the fall from the tower. Later, Ashley obtained photographs proving that Maeve was alive and had reunited with her girlfriend Elena to begin a new life anonymously. And Ashley destroyed the photographs to guarantee her safety, allowing her to have a normal, safe life beyond Homelander's reach. Alright friends, this was the fate and ending of every member of the Seven. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave your like, your comment, and subscribe to the channel.